place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back, viewers, to Youth Wednesdays on Tobago Updates. You might have heard it from our rundown earlier, but if you did not, we have a very special guest in studio this morning. She is born of Trinidad and Tobago. She has moved out and has been making her country proud, and she has been making some giant stepstones for everyone. If you might be wanting to venture into this type of field, she has been making those stepstones. So feel free to listen up and listen to what you can do to maybe get to that point. All right. So in studio this morning, we have Miss Allison Matulli. Good morning, Miss Matulli.
Good morning, Natalya. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Right. So I know you all hear the excitement in her voice. She is, as I said, Trinidad and Tobago born, even though, you know, her awardees might be outside of Trinidad and Tobago. She has that passion for being a Trinidad and Tobago citizen, as she would have shared before we started here this morning. All right. So who is Allison Matulli?
Wow, that's a very layered question. You know, I would say, first of all, most people identify me as an author, now as a global Fulbright. And I've been traveling the world, really focused on youth speech rights. That's been my focus. I'm a graduate of Howard Law, which of course is a huge civil rights legacy. And I've been able to take what I've learned and really plant those seeds to very young children. And that's really been the focus of my engagement in the world.
Okay. And I mentioned, you mentioned, sorry, that you have been impacting little children, right? So I'll get right into that. You are the founder of the Little Lawyers. So could you tell us a little bit of who the Little Lawyers are and what inspired you to start this foundation?
Okay, so I grew up as an immigrant child in the United States. And coming from that background, you know, of course, you know, from being from Trinidad and Tobago, those roots that you're planted within that soil makes you very focused on education, makes you really keen to make sure that you use all academic avenues to be successful. The one thing I learned along the way, and it was really when I got to Howard, was about my rights, right? And specifically about the importance of my voice and the legal rights that come with that. So I really wanted to engage as young as possible to plant those seeds so that students at a very tender age can understand how powerful their voice is.
Okay. All right. So you have been mentioning planting those seeds. So what inspired this type of seed?
Okay. So most people, when I started out, said, how can you teach little kids law? Well, we teach them many things. I mean, kids have a very fertile soil upon which you can plant many seeds. Some say you can even learn up to 10 languages before the age of 5. So you have to think that there is the possibility, and I always tell my kids to reach high. I mean, of course, now I also teach at the university level at FIU, at Florida International University, which is the 4th largest university public university in the United States. So I'm planting those seeds on a spectrum of people. But the law is something that most people are very intimidated by. And I want to make sure that it's not just us lawyers, it's not just judges who know their rights. If you can start that at a very young age, even my 2 little ones, I have 2 kids of my own, and they are very fluent in law. So not everybody grows up with a parent who's a lawyer in the house. I certainly did not, but I knew we needed to make sure that kids knew their rights.
And what inspired that? Making sure that kids would know their rights? Is there a specific situation, or is it like a guide that led up to you making the decision that younger children should be aware of their rights?
Well, if you grew up in an immigrant home, you know that you probably know more immigration law than most people at a very tender age, because you're hearing bits of it, right? And it's usually the problems that people are facing, and maybe they don't even have access to a lawyer, or they cannot, there's usually the financial consequences that bar people from being able to get proper legal representation. So I always think, how do we break down those barriers? How do we equalize the playing field? There are a lot of kids who grow up in houses that do have lawyers and so forth, and they know their rights back and forth. So in order for us to really equal the playing field and have some kind of equality in this world, we need to make sure that law is universal to all.
Okay, and you have made that possible for children in different homes who might not have lawyers for parents or a lawyer all entirely. You have made it possible for them to actually learn the law. So I give you that space to introduce your new book, Your Freedom, Your Power, A Kid's Guide to the First Amendment. So she'll be taking us through what we can look forward to in that book and how it can help all little ones learn their rights.
Okay, so when I started out a few years ago, and we went over the little lawyers, so I actually made law very colorful, right? I had to break down the law in a way that's very approachable for children. For the little lawyers, they get little briefcases, they get like these flashcards. I was actually at your amazing university on the island just last week, and I taught just an engaging game kind of thing with respect to legal lingo, and it was at the Tobago Hospitality and Tourism Institute. Amazing, and I'd like to also thank the dean there, who was absolutely fabulous. So I read from this book, and this is the book that came out last year, Your Freedom, Your Power. And Your Freedom, Your Power, when it came out, it was #1 on Amazon for children's government books. And I think the reason that is because people really want their children to not only be engaged in materials, but read things that are applicable. The law is very applicable. How we interact on the kindergarten playground can lead to legal consequences these days. You know, kids are on social media 24 hours a day. So how they engage with each other on social media, they have access to each other nonstop. So you have to really teach kids not to really fall into these particular landmines, as I call them, but understand how to navigate the new circumstances of being a digital citizen. So Your Freedom, Your Power. And the only thing I'm going to read from here, which I think for my experience is probably the most empowering, is the dedication. So this book I dedicated to my mother, who, let me just read the dedication. Okay, so to my mother, Adeline, who came to America with $20 in her purse and unlimited bravery to construct a path forth with endless opportunities in this powerful nation. She inspires me each and every day to believe in human greatness and my own talent to change the world. And if nothing else, I want students and young people to walk away with that hope and that just that one seed planted, that you have the ability to change the world. And it could just be how you interact with your fellow classmates. Do you use kind words? Do you lift each other up? I say as we rise, we lift, and we need to understand how to do that.
Okay. In terms of the ages that you'll be targeting, because you have mentioned that on the playground, these type of children are now being handed a briefcase and some flashcards, as part of the foundation. Mm-hmm. So what ages do you target for this foundation?
So Your Freedom, Your Power, well, first of all, the little lawyers. The little lawyers itself is really elementary students. And it has surprised me because the fact is, so many people don't know the law that sometimes middle school programs want us to interact and engage their students. They're not only getting a briefcase, the whole thing navigates around two characters, right? And how they're engaging with their rights. I tell my students at FIU that you have to, it's interesting to know the law, but when the rubber hits the road is when something really happens in the real world, and how you marry that to the law, or how you're able to navigate the law in order to have the outcome you're seeking.
Okay. Is there any possibility of you introducing this book now on the Trinidad and Tobago market for the children at the elementary school level?
I would welcome that conversation because I've seen a number of things happening with respect to bullying, for example. That's usually one big red flag that, we're called into schools to help students learn how to interact as I said, as digital citizens in this world. And they need to understand there are legal consequences. It's not just, you get a little slap on the wrist and everybody goes about their way. Sometimes an apology is not enough. I think there's a lot of value in apology, but there are legal consequences in the way we engage. So I would welcome that possibility.
Okay, and I mean, I'm throwing it out there. Any teacher, any principal listening, anyone who is a representative of the education system that we have here in Trinidad and Tobago. Here's Miss Allison Matulli with Your Freedom, Your Power, a kid's guide to the First Amendment. All right, so she's welcoming the opportunity and she is ready and set to go. So it's all in your hands now, Trinidad and Tobago. Do we want our kids to know their rights? Right? So, Miss Allison Matulli, I know you have a lot in store, and we'll get to know a lot about Miss Allison Matulli and what she has next to offer us. There is a little surprise she has in store for us that she'll be releasing here on Tobago Updates here this morning. So you'll be able to see that on the second segment when you stay tuned and you share the live, share the live, share the live.